good morning, everyone, and welcome to the last webinar in our SMB webinar series on integration with a finance system and project management. In this particular webinar, we will be covering integration with a finance system. For this one, we have picked Xero, creation of invoices, bilateral sync between the two different systems. We'll be showing then moving on to project management, showing some project management automation. We'll be showing task management on projects and then generating PDFs and reporting on projects as well. Okay, so we are going to start in Salesforce, and we're going to start the journey just on an account that we have been working on throughout the sales, the marketing, and the service demo. This is LaRue Publishing. And LaRue Publishing have an opportunity open here. So it's got some products that have been added to it, and it's sat in a negotiation stage. And the next thing that we want to do from here is we want to send this out for signature for the customer. But what we are going to ask the salesperson to do is set the invoicing schedule that they have agreed. And again, this is just how Cloud Orca work as a small business. And Salesforce is incredibly flexible, so you don't have to do what you're about to see. You can set it in multiple different ways. You can see here against the opportunity that the amount is £10,000. And related to the opportunity, we have invoices that are going to be generated from that particular sale. If I'm the salesperson and I want to move this and get this to go and I want to send this out, okay, it's actually going to block me because we have a rule in there to say that you need to create the invoices first, because there's no point having this finance integration if the data isn't there to send. So we've got lots of different data validations to ensure that the salespeople fill it out. So when it transfers to another system, it's all there, ready and set up. So here we've got a simple button called Set Payment Schedule. And this is no code. It's using Salesforce declarative automation. And we're just simply going to say, okay, well, what's the amount of the sale? It's 10,000. How many invoices have we got that relate to that sale? So I could say that I've got 2 and move to the next stage. And it's going to ask me what I want the payment split for that invoice to be. If I go back and enter in 3, you'll see when I go next, it's now going to ask me for the 3 splits. So you can generate one, multiple, however many invoices that you want from an opportunity. So for this example, we're going to go in and we're going to put in a 70%, a 20%, and a 10% split. So I'm expecting 3 invoices to be related to this opportunity: 7,000, 2,000, and 10 and 1,000. So click next, and you can see now here what's happened is it's given me 3 amounts: 7,000, 2,000, and 1,000, and it's asking me to put the dates in. Okay, so again, we're asking the salesperson to set this as per the sale, but it could also be other users that go in Salesforce and do this as well. So we're going to set the first invoice date of today, a next invoice date for 1 week later, and then 2 weeks from the first one, we're going to generate the we're going to ask for the third. So I'm going to click next, and what's going to happen now is it's going to take the payment schedule that I've put in as the salesperson and go to the finance tab. If you remember, there was no invoices before. Okay, now it's created the 3 invoices against the opportunity, which now allows me to move it to out for signature. So you see that initial rule that I had, okay, blocked me from doing that, and now I've created those invoices. It allows me to then do that for those of you that want to go back and watch the sales demo or on the sales demo. You'll remember that we sent it then by ESign and stuff, and we stipulate our payment terms within the contract that we send via ESign. Related to the opportunity and to the customer, what we also have is the account that's going to relate to Xero. Okay, so it's the corresponding Xero account. And the reason why we use a separate record is because it allows for scalability and managing, for example, multiple currencies, or you've got one account that has, for example, 2 different trading entities. So they could have 2 different Xero accounts in Xero, but just one account in Salesforce. Okay, so it allows for a lot of scalability having it as a separate record. And if I edit this, you'll actually see here, we don't need to do anything. This is created automatically for us, and it basically just pulls the information in from the account and the contact. So there's nothing really that I need to do at all here. It's all just automatically generated and populated. So if you're a salesperson starting an opportunity, that just gets created for you and added. You don't really have to do anything. Okay, so it's super simple, super easy for the salesperson. So you saw the Xero account that's related to the particular sale, and we've actually got it just down here. That's underneath there. You can see that we've got the invoices that were created when I had that. And then finally, what I might want to do is check that I've got some key financial details filled in. And we have this in our business as just like as just a fail safe, right? And again, these are the details here that we say are going to be passed to Xero. So it's a final check, and it's looking at all of the different records related to this opportunity, and it's pulling in the information, and it's just asking us to check it, because what about if we've missed a VAT number, as an example? We can then flag that, realize that, go in, fill it in, and then we can save it. So that's an overview of the opportunity that we've got prepared. So we've got the sale, it's linked to the Xero account, we've got the amount, and we've created the invoices. We've freed all the validation by doing that. I'm now going to jump into Xero, okay? And for just for data protection reasons, we've linked up for this particular webinar to the demo company here, not to our own. So it's just linked to the demo company. So everything you see in here is all dummy data. So we've got here the corresponding Xero account is LaRue Publishing. So if we go to Xero, and I'm just going to scroll down here, this is a list of all of our customers, okay? And again, this could be this is exactly the same in any finance system, but it's showing me a list of all my customers that I have in here. You can see LaRue Publishing are nowhere to be seen, okay? So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to Salesforce, and I'm going to go back to the opportunity, and I'm then going to close win the opportunity. And anyone that was on our sales and service demos is going to remember all of the different automations that this triggers off. That simple stage change triggers so many different things in there that we've got all automations that we've prepared, including obviously our little push notification that we sent to the mobile to say congratulations, it's closed one. If I was to hover over the Xero, if I refresh my page and hover over the corresponding Xero account that's linked to that opportunity, okay, what you're probably going to see in that opportunity, in that Xero account here, sorry, is now it's got a Xero ID in it, and it's got a Xero API status. So on close winning that opportunity, essentially to explain the logic, it looked at this opportunity and said, does this already exist? Does this already exist in Xero? If the answer is no, create it, okay? So we're going to go back to Xero, and looking at the Xero contacts, obviously LaRue Publishing are nowhere to be seen. I'm just going to refresh my page, and I'm going to scroll down, and what I'm expecting to see, and I do, is LaRue Publishing LLP, okay, that record that we created from Salesforce. So here you can see it now exists, and I'm just going to open it up. On looking at the contact in Xero, what we then see is the 3 invoices that we created earlier, okay, with the invoice split, 7,000, 2,000, 1,000, and we also see the dates as well that relate to those invoices that we set. So essentially, what it did is it looked at the corresponding Xero account. It looked at all of the invoices that myself as the salesperson had put in that opportunity, and it pushed all of that to Xero within milliseconds via one API call. Okay, so and that's how we push that. You saw us as salespeople manually create the invoices. We do other ones as well, where if it was just one invoice amount that you wanted to send, you could automatically send that. It's built completely bespoke, so it's very flexible in terms of how the sync can be built between the two. So going here to the contact in Xero, what we're going to do is we're going to open the first invoice, okay? And now the invoice is open, and here's the Salesforce implementation that we've stipulated. It's got the corresponding Salesforce unique ID that we use. Again, you can use a unique ID that's unique to you if you want. You don't have to use the Salesforce ID. and you can see the amount here exclusive of VAT, and then depending on what nominal it's put in is depending if it's going to have VAT on. We're not going to send the invoice. We're just going to mark it as done. Okay, and then once we've marked the invoice as done, I'm now going to go in and add a payment to it, and all I'm just going to do is select the full payment and add it in there. And now that's going to mark that invoice has been paid. So if I go back to my invoice here, and sorry, my contact in Xero, refresh the page, you can see it's marked that invoice off as being paid. So I'm going to move back to Salesforce now. So that's the Xero, and we'll be flicking between the two systems so you really get a good idea of how it works. So here now, back into Salesforce, I'm going to go to the corresponding Salesforce account, and then on the right-hand side here, we can see all the invoices that relate to that particular account. And here's that invoice here that we saw for 7,000. So I'm going to open that up. That was the invoice that was pushed. Okay, I can see here's my unique Xero invoice number that has been populated from that, and it's marked as not having been paid. Now what I'm going to show you is we're going to manually simulate an API call using the Salesforce developer console. Now, if we weren't on a webinar in real life, we schedule these to run automatically, so these should just happen. But rather than sitting here and waiting, we're going to force run it. So we're going to use something called the Salesforce developer console. This isn't something that any of you guys would have to worry about. This is something that we're just going to show you, and we're going to force run it. So here's the actual API call that we've got here, and I'm just going to execute that. And in reality, what should happen is that API call would actually happen automatically. So it would be scheduled every 5 minutes. To give you an idea of how we operate as a small business, or we just collect invoices once a day, so we don't need to worry about doing it. But if you're quite a heavy volume of business in terms of transactions, then you can have it scheduled to send every 5 minutes should you want. Okay, so here's the corresponding invoice that we saw in Xero of the amount for 7,000 that we had down the bottom. So that's 7,000 ex VAT, 8,400 including VAT. We're now going to refresh the page, and there it is. You see, it's been ticked as marked as paid. So it's just gone in. It's looked for this invoice. It's looked for the status of paid, and then what we do in Salesforce is we then mark that invoice as being paid for a more of a visualization, if you like. You can see at the top we have like a little green flag. So it was red before when it wasn't paid, and it's green now that it's been paid. So it just gives you a good indication. For example, if we go back here to the corresponding Xero account, over here on the right hand side, we've just got that little green flag. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Xero. Okay, and let's take this as an actual example that we've got invoices that have been created in our finance system, but the salesperson has maybe got the amounts wrong. Okay, so I'm going to open up these, and let's say for whatever reason the customer didn't want that invoice split, and that they maybe wanted rather than 20% and 10%, maybe they wanted 15% across both of the invoices, for example. Now, if you've got two systems that are out of sync, what you might get is then your finance person goes in and edits them, and it doesn't quite then marry up with what your CRM is saying from a sales perspective. So all we're going to do is we're going to edit the invoices, and we're just going to go in and mark them both as 1,500. Okay, and I'm going to do this one as well, and mark this one as 1,500, and then mark it as done. Okay, perfect. So if I go back to the Xero contact and refresh my page, it's now got the invoices of the even amounts. Finally, what we're then going to do is I'm going to create a new invoice. Okay, in here, and then I'll just call it 1 times day consultancy, for example. Okay, and again, you can put whatever you want, any nominal that you guys would use, and we'll put in a rate. We'll mark it as done. So this is now creating like a new invoice in Xero, and then I'm going to go in and I'm just going to mark that invoice as having been paid. So if we go back to the corresponding Xero contact again, and I'll refresh, what we now see is there's 4 invoices in there, and we've got the invoice that we marked as being paid. We've got the new invoice that wasn't created. It was like an additional one for 700. And then we've got the 2 invoices that we edited. So I'm going to go back again to Salesforce, and I'm going to simulate that API call again. Okay, so using the dev console, I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to go in, and then I'm just going to simulate this again. So and again, just to reiterate on there as well, guys, like this is not something that you would need to do manually. This is something that you would schedule, okay, and that you could have anytime you want. So okay, so now what's happening in the background is we've run that, and what we're looking for is we're looking for adjustments to the invoices and any changes to the invoices that we might have. So essentially, this is part of the bilateral sync that I was talking about originally, where it's going to be continuously talking to the other system. And I'm just looking in the background here just to see if it is finished processing. And so I will refresh my page and go back now to my invoices that I have in here. I'm just going to refresh, and I think it's worked, and it has. So what we now saw is we've seen an API call that's gone to Xero, and it's looking for 2 things. It's looking for updates, and it's looking for new invoices. So remember, the scenario is the salesperson got that wrong. They got the invoice split wrong, and then inside of Xero, what we did is we took these 2 invoices and we amended them. Okay, again, going back to Xero, we amended them here, and then going back to the corresponding Xero account, you can see now that they have been amended, marked as not having been paid. Going to this invoice here, this is the odd one that we created in Xero, and it's come back in, and it's logged it again into Salesforce. So it enables the salesperson to see that they may have purchased something else outside of that additional sale that they originally had. Just to now finish on the invoices, I'm going to go back and going to go to the original one here. So we have a process where occasionally someone who doesn't have access to our finance system may get a query, for example, like on a customer service case or something, and rather than just seeing the Salesforce record, they might want to see the corresponding invoice PDF that relates to that, or they might want to send it to the customer or something like that if you guys have that process. So we have a button here, and I'm just going to push it and say, okay, go and get me the invoice PDF. Now we have it as a manual process, where what will happen is it will pushing a button, it will go off to Xero, it will look for the corresponding PDF for that invoice, and it will come back in and then attach it to the record. And I'll refresh my page in a second, okay, and you guys will see it being attached. So just refresh, and it should be there now. It is, so it's just sat here against my record. But should you wish to, you could also have it as like an automatic process. Okay, so you can see Cloud Orca, we don't need every invoice, we only need it for queries or something inside of the CRM. But if you want to, you could call and get them automatically. And then what happens is it comes back in, it attaches it, and you can see this is from the demo company. So it's not one of our actual invoices from the demo. After this evening, when we reconnect it, it can bring in the real ones that we have. And it's a really good way, for example, if a customer raises a service case with you, you don't have to give access to your finance system for other people within the business. You can just bring the corresponding information that only you wish to into the CRM. Whether it's a button or whether it's automatic, the beauty about something like Salesforce and another cloud-based platform like Xero is it gives you the flexibility to build whatever integration that you want. You can bring these in manually. You don't have to bring the invoices in as an example. Okay, so here you can see everything that relates to it. For those who do it on our sales demo, remember that now this is also available from the mobile device. So you want to quickly check it, you can on the mobile. Using the Salesforce declarative solution as well, in terms of sharing, what you can also make sure is, for example, your salespeople can only see invoices that are related to the accounts that they see and that they can view. So again, another beauty about this is that you can limit the salespeople using Salesforce standard sharing. To touch on a couple of final notes as well around this. So a real advantage for bringing data into Salesforce, you're probably thinking, okay, it's great for the salesperson and the company to be able to see it, but what other advantages can you get as a business from spending money to integrate this system? So I'm just going to come up with a couple of examples to show you. So let's pick an invoice here. So here you can see the invoices, it hasn't been paid. I'm just going to mark this as manually as being paid, and you can see what happens is that it'll look here and it'll say, okay, that invoice is being paid. We've got like a status for if it's been overdue. If it's not been paid and that invoice is within the relevant time frame that you stipulated, we have that an invoice must be paid 30 days, for example, from that invoice date. But again, this logic can be anything that you want. It would just come up with it's a whole like a holding here. You can see the hourglass. If we go back to the republishing to the account and scroll down here, you can see that they've got two invoices that are open. Okay, what their open invoice value 3,000. Remember, go back here. These are the two open invoices. Is their account overdue? No, it's not. It's holding. It's not up to date, but it's not overdue. What happens if they become overdue? Let's move this invoice and let's move it right back to an invoice date just at its beginning of the year or something, and we'll save it. Okay, what you'll see is that it marks the invoice now as being overdue, because our logic is that it must be paid within 30 days from this invoice date. Okay, and again, have whatever logic that you want, and you can have custom payment terms on there, anything like that. But what we're trying to do is simulate in Salesforce from the finance system that invoice is overdue. If we now go back to the republishing, we can see that the account is now overdue because it's got an overdue invoice, and because it's data in Salesforce. Now what we can do is use that for validation. So an example that we would have is that you can't have an opportunity, a sales opportunity, or an order for a customer where their account is overdue. You can't, it'll block you from having done. So you can use that from Salesforce, that data, to stop the salesperson doing something else with that account. They have to physically then, as the account owner and the salesperson, might need to then go chase those invoices, get everything up to date before I can then proceed with that particular sale. So it's a really good way to utilize that data. So we've shown you data going from Salesforce to Xero, and then bringing that data back in to utilize it. Finally, all I'm just going to quickly do is mark these invoices as both being paid. And I'm just going to do this manually. And again, we can amend in Salesforce field level security. So it means that then the salesperson can't do this, only the API can. And now you can see all the invoices have been paid. If we go back to the republishing, you can see that their account is completely up to date. So it's a really good way to use the data coming back in to then use validation in there. Final thing on Xero and on finance, and we'll open right at the end for questions on both parts of the webinar. If I now go to my reports that I have inside of Salesforce, okay, I'm going to open my invoice report that I have. Okay, and this is going to bring all of the test invoices that we ran before the webinar. So again, it's just dummy data for this one. But what we get here is we get an overdue, we get a report and an overview report of all of the invoices that we've got that are open. In fact, in here in this one, it's any invoices that have been created at all. But you can have any filter criteria in here for only overdue invoices, only unpaid invoices, only invoices for my account, for example. So again, leveraging that data that we brought in from an external system like Xero, we can then use it to report. And then let's say we want to have that report sent to us. Again, using standard Salesforce functionality, having what's called a subscription. So now we can have an overdue invoice report that is sent every day, for example. We could send it every week, and we could send it on specific days of the week. We could send it monthly, and we can add other people to that. So maybe it's not just me, but maybe I could put one of my colleagues in there as well, okay, and add him to the report. And now, let's say every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m., Okay, myself and Tony will be sent that invoice report for the whole business. And again, a really good way. You don't have to give people access to your to your finance system to see their data that relates to them. A simple integration between the two systems. We can then use that data from a validation point of view and from a reporting point of view as well. So really important. If you're going to put money into an integration, let's get the most out of it. So that brings the finance demo to an end, and we're going to open up for questions at the end. So I'm now going to just jump on and jump over to project management. So when we won that opportunity, loads of things happened. Okay, we had notifications, congratulations. Remember our invoices. Okay, what it also did is it created a project. Okay, so I'm gonna open this project up now. Projects, we call it project. Okay, the reality is it's a custom object in Salesforce. Okay, so it's built. It's not like accounts or leads that comes with Salesforce. It's something that we have built. So you don't have to call it projects. You can call it whatever you want. Okay, there's no real it's whatever naming convention that your business that your business wants. Like anywhere in Salesforce, we can utilize list views. So if I go to my projects here, I can see, for example, all my projects in like a Kanban view, like you can see here, or I can view it as a table like that list, that Excel one, you know, that we talked about in the sales and service demo. Here now in my Kanban, I can take certain projects and move them along in Kanban, and it just gives me an overview of everywhere that we are. So going back then to the project now. So here you can see that the project is two things going on. We have automatically mapped over all of the information that relates to the particular project. So such as the account, the opportunity, the primary contact, any project information that all came from the salesperson that they had entered in. So really important to have that. But it also then has information in there that we can then let's go and fill some information in that relates specifically to this particular project in here. And again, all of this, all of the information that you guys put in here is absolutely bespoke to whatever you want to do. You know, there's a reason why it's, you know, called custom, because it can be any information that you want. Essentially, it's that post-sale process that we have. So here we filled in some information that is on the actual project. But some of it we didn't have to fill in because it was automatically there from us, because the project manager here is Ramiro, who wants to rely on the salesperson to make sure that they do their job properly. All of that information maps over. He can then see that project there sat right in front of him. Like the opportunity as well, the project has its own process, and this is our process that we work. And the reality is you can have, you know, whatever process you want. Even dependencies in there. So if we move it to the next stage, it will then open up and it will then show us, okay, well, what you put it in a sprint. Okay, what sprint phase are you in? And again, that's really good from two things, from a automation point of view, but then really importantly from a reporting perspective. You know, where am I at? How long have I been sat in that particular stage from a project perspective? And that's everything that you get from having those stages and those milestones, if you like, on the actual project itself. So what we're now going to do is we're going to add in some tasks on the project, because like any project, we've got certain to-dos that we have. So we're going to create a few tasks. So I'm going to take task one. I'm just going to call it, I'm going to assign it to someone. So this is where I can either have a task, assign it to me, or I can assign it to different people. I can give it a priority. I can obviously give it things like a status, a due date. We talk about reporting and automation all the time. Put a date in there. Okay, you get some really good reporting metrics from that. Put in a time estimate. Okay, and then I'm just going to put test in there and save that. And then you'll see now on my project Kanban, and we'll discuss the Kanban in a second, that my task one now appears on there, and I can super easy put in another one in here. So for example, test two. Okay, well, I'll call it task two. just for uniformity. I'll assign it to someone else. So here I'll assign it to Andrew. Okay, again, I'll give it a high priority. I'll leave it open. Let's give it a due date, for example, of end of the week. This time I'm only going to say it's going to take me half an hour. Again, just put in a description for him to be able to manage it. Okay, now if I refresh my page, you can see here I've got 2 tasks now. Okay, on this project, so you can add in as many as you want, and essentially these are your to-dos that you would have in that project. So our aim is to get all of these tasks to be closed off, and these are our task processes. We've got open in progress blocks, so we have actual physical task process, and then we have an overall project process as well. If I click into task 1, okay, I can see here now the details around this task that I've got, everything that I filled in here, who it's assigned to, what estimate, and then also like a field that we can use from a reporting perspective. So how long did the person take on this? Okay, so they might have taken 45 minutes to do it, and then we've been under the estimation that we put in for the time. And we use numbers, but you can also use actual physical like time as well, time and date stamps. Also keeping collaboration and that theme that we touched on in sales and service. Using chatter, we communicate around our tasks. So here you can see that Tony, who I've assigned it to, has just got a notification to say you've been assigned this task. He's gone in, and quite rightly, because I've not put any information in there. He says I need more information. Okay, and he's put a question in for me. Okay, and then for example, I will go and get this for you and comment. And what this does is using Salesforce out of the box collaboration in terms of chatter. And here you can see we can actually physically view that he's typing. He's typing away. Using that, it keeps all the communication around this task in the actual task itself. Okay, so it's very good from that perspective, from a task management, that we don't have to worry about emails flying around. For those of you who use Slack and Teams and everything like that, it's great, but we want a task specific conversation around this task, and that's what sits in here using chatter. So we can move this task to in progress with the next status. And now if I go back to my project, okay, and let me refresh my page, what you'll see is that we've got the 2 tasks that relate to the project. Task 1 you just saw there that I was discussing on chatter with Tony is now moved to the status in progress, and then we've got task 2 here that's sat. And actually this Kanban is something that's free on the Salesforce App Exchange. We just installed it. It was made by a different company, and that's again beauty about something like Salesforce is it has an ecosystem of apps that you can have and install loads of cool free apps. And this is just an example of something that we leveraged. And using this Kanban, we can then take these tasks and look, I can move them around. Okay, and then that would then give me visibility in here in overall process of the actual tasks in a Kanban format, and allows me to manage them here. Just down here, you can actually see, and this is a what's called a lightning component. So we talk a lot about clicks and not code. That's actually a code example of what we built. So we wanted to make ourselves our own dashboard per project in our own format, how we wanted to see it, and using lightning, we've built our own one in there that looks how we want. But if you want to use this Salesforce declarative, so clicks, like a simple report chart, you could pop in and it would be super easy. But again, you can see it's a good way that just gives us visibility into that little overall task dashboard. So that's then around the project process and the tasks. But what you could often have in a project that you've got is you might have a change to that project, and it might be a budgetary change, it might be a time change, it might be anything like that, new feature, new request. So we have what's called a change request, and this is exactly how we work. So always really important to say to you that this is us as an SMB. We wanted something super quick, super easy. Now we can go in and the customer's requested change request. We push a button. We'd go in and say, okay, what's it for? It's for extra functionality. What's the cost? it's going to cost us, you know, 1,000. Okay, for example. Okay, and what's the business impact, and then save it, and it creates the change request here against the actual record itself. Okay, so we would do that as the salespeople. The project manager would then go in to the change request, so they open it up, and then here is now the change request that relates to that project, and this is maybe is around additional functionality or extra that we want to put in. So now what we can do is we can go in and fill out more information around the project, and I am literally just copying and pasting some information that we made earlier, but this is where the project manager would go in, and he would go in and fill out all of this information. So let's say level of impact, potential risk, anything you want. And again, this is custom, so you can have whatever you want. You don't have to have this, but this is a way that we use to adjust functionality and requests around the project that we're managing. Remember back on the sales demo, we showed you ESign. Okay, so here is where we're going to use ESign, and we're going to show you again, but we're going to show you in a slightly different way how to use ESign from when we showed you on the sales demo. On the sales demo, what we had is we produced a quote, we added it, and then we dragged everything on there, so we sort of made it on the demo. Whereas what this is a pre-built template. So all that you have to do really in here is add in who it's for. It already has the project manager. It already has our customer success director, Tony, who would receive a copy as well. And now if I press preview document, and you can leverage any ESign that I know from Salesforce to do this, and it basically would give you here then this PDF that you've got that would relate, and you can see it's unlike the one that we showed you on the sales demo, where we were actually physically dragging and dropping everything to sort of quickly build it and then send it. What you see here is it's a template that we have made, and scrolling down, look, it's all automatically filled in who it's going to send to. And now if I press continue, that would be sent. If I refresh, you see that change request automatically updates to the fact that it's been sent. Okay, so now that's waiting, and that's sat there, and then that record of that project change, once it's been signed, would automatically be logged against the project as a document. So all of it is automated, stamped. For those of you that have the ambition, like a cloud Orca, to be paperless, this is a real step forward using something like this, and again, all visible from the mobile device. Going down to the bottom of the project, we have some calculations that we might want to show in terms of costs for the project. So here I could put in the billable number of hours. So let's say we scheduled 50 hours, sorry, at £100 an hour, but actually we took 45 and we billed 150. And if you remember on the tasks, you had those hourly rates in there. So I'm just typing this out for you to show you, but you can use Salesforce standard functionality to just roll up those times, put them in there, and then any time that someone adds in a task or completes a task, it would automatically calculate here. And you can see just from filling those in, it's given us a project cost, the total project that we've billed, and it's given us a project percentage profit margin. For those of you are probably thinking and asking the question, well, going back to the finance piece, we invoice from the opportunity. What about if we want to invoice from the project? Absolutely, you can. So we invoice from the sale, but should you wish to, the process that we saw at the beginning of the demo, we could definitely produce with, and we've done something very similar a few times, where then once the project is completed, it could send an invoice or something from the project, or it could send regular invoices depending on what you would want. Again, beauty about building something on Salesforce bespoke for your business needs. So finally, we're going to do, and we're just going to go up to the top of the project, and I'm going to complete it up here. And now upon completing the project, now you can see there's a little bit of just gamification. You can have sounds here. We've got a GIF of Steve Carell from The Office, but you can have whatever you want. Just something again to gamify Salesforce and make it a little bit more user friendly. You don't have to have this. It's purely just an example. Related related to each project, we have customer surveys in there, and this is, we're going to show you something that's really similar to what we showed you on the service demo, where now in here, this is the customer that we've got on the project has received a survey from the project. Okay, and now what they can do is the actual customer can go in and they can complete the survey here. So let's say they go in, they would complete it, and I'm just going to do it quite quickly. But again, this is using get feedback as a plugin for Salesforce. You can use Get Feedback, you can use SurveyMonkey, you can use Salesforce surveys. Again, just an example where we use the same app we used for service to send customer service surveys. Okay, now we can use this and produce a survey here. They're using the same tool, so we've paid for it once, and we do pay. We're customers of all of this. So we use this from a service perspective, from the cases, if you remember, on the service webinar, or for those of you that want to go back and watch it. And now we've collected the project management survey, so it allows us to report and to measure both our customer service employees and also our consultants based on the project success, using the same tool, using the same automation. We're just collecting different information depending on the processes. And finally, on the project now, what we're going to do to finish it off is we're going to generate like a project summary document. Now, we talk a lot about the app exchange using the ecosystem of Salesforce partners, like that free app on the Kanban that we showed, Get Feedback, which is a paid app, and we're also using Conga, which is a paid app. And they made a business out of generating documents on Salesforce. There's no more to say. If you want to generate a document, they generate Word, PDF, PowerPoint, Excel, all sorts. It's a fantastic company. And here you can see it's just actually downloaded, but I don't want to open it there. What I want to do is I want to refresh my page, and using the information now that's on the project on a button push, what's happened is it's produced a project summary document that we attach to the project as well. So just pushing a button, to produce the document, and you could produce this automatically should you wish. It's now gone in and it's pulling in information from the project into any format that you want. So you build this, and this is just an internal document that we use just to give like a summary, so we can go back and read it, and should we wish, we could send it to project stakeholders as well. And it just brings in any of the information that you saw us populate in here. Remember, we put these notes in, okay, down there, and it can even bring in related records. We build a table of all of the change requests that we add to it, and the same principle as that Xero PDF. It logs it against this, and then this is available for me on my mobile device as well as I'm going around, and it's all there for me on that Salesforce record, the history. So you can see it pulled all of that in and did there. So for those of you getting dizzy on Steve Carell, I'm just gonna move on now to the final part where we're going to discuss project and reporting and the dashboard. We've put the information in, and like anywhere in Salesforce, if you put the information in, you can get the information out. Okay, it's as simple as that. Okay, and then using that information, we can build reports. And you saw a report 20 minutes ago when we showed you the invoice report. And then from that invoice, or from that report, we can then take that report. I'll just refresh my page. We can take that report and we can then build a dashboard. And then this is a fantastic way that we can then go in and visualize Salesforce data. So wait as it's loading, but you can see here it's loading various charts that we've got on all of the different data. So for example, the change requests that we have, just scrolling down, you can see it's got all of the projects by the created date. It's seeing all the different tasks where they are in their status. We built snapshots around any tasks that we're blocked on. It shows how many tasks we're blocked, and you could click in and see the reason why. We've got a project P&L report that gives it against our time, and then again, number of projects that we've completed, the tasks open by priority. Here's our little invoice one that we brought in as a table in there. So you can see we've taken the data, and we have then taken it, and we've run reports on it, and we've then created the dashboard, and we've then used this dashboard to visualize loads of different data that gives Cloud Orca an overview of all of their projects. And finally, to finish, very much like the reports, you can also choose to subscribe to a dashboard. So you can have it sent to you daily, weekly, exactly the same principle that you had with the reports. Monthly, send me my project dashboard for my management meeting on the first Monday of every month or something. Should you even wish as well, you can go into one of the project dashboard, or any dashboard component, go in and look, just download it, and you'll see it will download here as a PNG, and then you could stick it in a PowerPoint or something like that if you've got a meeting. So it allows you to do that and visualize that data, and we have that as a project dashboard that then our project manager will look at and be able to come back and quickly see what's going on without going and searching for all of that data. So that's an overview of and I'm gonna finish slightly early so that we allow a little bit more time for questions, because I realize we've got Xero like finance, and we've got project management. So finish slightly early and open up for any questions, both on project management and also on finance. Let's see, we've got quite a lot of questions in here, so I'm just going to start to go through them. Question one: how do we set up the Xero link to Salesforce? That's where we come in. It's as simple as that. We build the API that links it to your Xero environment. So we build an app in Xero. And we build the API in Salesforce, and it talks to the Xero app, and it brings information back and forth between the two. So I think the simple answer to that is that a business like Cloud Orca would build that integration and that setup between the two. There are, should you wish, I believe, I've never used them, but there are sort of like apps that you can download that will talk between the two, but you don't get the flexibility to build the sort of process that you want as a business. Another question in here: if you change the invoice date in Salesforce after it's been passed to Xero, will the change update Xero? Great question. In our demo, the answer is no, because actually I'm an admin and I can edit those fields. We have them as read-only in Salesforce. We have it where the invoice has to be edited in Xero. Should you, and again, this is an example, a great example of building this custom. But if you want to, you can have it where you edit you can have it bilateral to edit it. So you edit the invoice date in Salesforce, and as soon as that date's been edited, it would edit the date of the corresponding invoice in Xero. Absolutely, you can do that. Another really good example why I'm a big believer in building integrations like this rather than having like a plug and play app. Are there any drawbacks to the system from having the APIs every 5 minutes to once a day? Yes, the answer is yes, there is a drawback, but the drawback is all about volume. It's all about volume. If you're producing like tens of thousands of invoices and you've got API calls every 5 minutes going back and forth, it can slow the system down because you've got continuous batches running. If you've only got a handful of invoices, no. The reason why we don't do it is just because then we know every morning that our invoices are up to date because our accountant will do it in Xero. But should you wish to, it's all around performance in terms of the volume of transactions that you'd be passing between the two systems. Can you use Salesforce Sage 200 and is the process the same? Great question. The answer is that we actually, before we moved to Xero, we had QuickBooks Online and we used QuickBooks, and we used the same process for QuickBooks, exactly the same. And then we just moved it to Xero and redid the integration. You can have it with any finance system. The restriction isn't normally on Salesforce. The restriction is on the actual finance system and the API it has itself. The answer, as far as I'm aware, with Sage 200 is that as long as you've got the cloud-based version, then the answer is yes. And yes, you can then have the process exactly the same in there. It's probably a good point to note actually that you can have you can integrate with any finance system as long as it's got open API capabilities. Okay, so that's all the questions that I can see that relate to on Xero. So I'm just going to answer some of the project management questions now. Within the project object, is the Kanban also custom made? Actually, because we've got another question around this. If you go to the Salesforce App Exchange and if you type in Kanban, it will come up. It's free. I can't remember who it's built by actually. It's this one here. I don't know why it's got some poor reviews. I've never really had any major issues with it, and also it's free. It's made by someone, so yeah, it's a good app. But you can just go here and you can just download it and install it. I believe that it can, yeah, so it can't be used with Professional Edition. So it's enterprise only. And I know we had one other question about that as well. In projects, can fields in the task creation functionality be customized? The answer is yes, 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 and yes. We built that how we want to add tasks in. The reality, you can add whatever you want in there. Okay, literally whatever you want, and you can pre-populate based on the project too. So, for example, if you want every task to be like the project owner or something, then you can. This little button that we've got and the fields that we've got are what we wanted to use, and the fact that it's a custom object projects and anything that relates to it means that you can put whatever you want in. The only limitation that you might have is, I think Professional Edition is 100 fields and Enterprise is 500 or something. So if you go over any of those two, then you can, but not many people that we know that reaches those limits. Can you create a project management portal so that clients can see where they are with a project at any one time? Really, really good question. We actually have it, and we were going to show it on this, and maybe it's something that we could show at a later date. But for example, we have a customer community where what it does is it then shows the project in the actual community itself, and then customers can go in and I mean, you might want to not look at Steve Carell. I'm just gonna move him here so he doesn't appear. But yeah, you can then surface all of these details, including related objects, tasks, everything like that, in a customer service portal. No problem at all. So that brings not only does it bring an end to this webinar, but it also brings an end to the webinar series. I'd like to personally thank from myself and everyone from Cloud Orca to those that attended one or all of them. So once again, thank you to everyone. Any follow-up questions around Xero and project management, or in fact anything else that you've seen throughout the webinar series, you've got all of our details. So thank you once again to everyone, and hopefully see and speak to everyone again soon.